And welcome everyone to today's edition of Local Government Education Webinar Series, brought to you by the University of Illinois Extension and Rural Partners, the voice of rural Illinois. My name is Mike Delaney, and I'm a community and economic development educator. I'm based in Ogle County up here in the northern state line region. We'll begin with some quick housekeeping notes as usual. Please note that we will, as usual, be recording today's webinar. At the conclusion of today's presentation, registered participants will receive an email with slides from the webinar and a link to the recording. If you didn't register in advance for the webinar but would like to receive the materials, that's fine. Please put your name in the chat box to let us know, and we'll add you to the mailing list for the materials. Please also note that if you desire, you can activate Zoom's closed captioning function by clicking on the corresponding closed caption function at the show captions icon at the bottom of your screen. And finally, as always, you are welcome at any time to share your questions in the Zoom chat space. We'll be reviewing the questions in a Q&A period after the main presentations. So now I'd like to introduce Laura Hepp-Kessel, who serves as a member of the Board of Rural Partners, as well as her day job as Executive Director of Telehealth for SIU's School of Medicine. Laura?
Thanks, Mike. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. First, I just want to thank University of Illinois Extension for partnering with Rural Partners to offer this webinar series. We've been doing this since early in the pandemic, partnering, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with them. Thanks to our speakers for updating us on Corn Belt ports. I did want to just mention Rural Partners is the state's Rural Development Council. We're a volunteer working board. We rely on membership to complete our functions, and we try to connect people with resources. So if anybody's interested in joining us, whether we can help you out or if you're interested in being part of our group and being a member, please visit us at ruralpartners.org. You can get information. I think we can also put that in the chat. Any questions or comments, please reach out and we're happy to share. So again, thanks to University of Illinois Extension for partnering with us, and I'm going to hand it over to the Corn Belt Ports team to give us today's webinar. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. This is Bob Sinkler. I'm the Executive Director of the Corn Belt Ports, and we do an annual stakeholder update every year in the same webinar format, and we just really appreciate the Rural Partners helping us deliver this every year to all the stakeholders and also the University of Illinois Extension. What we're going to do today is just give you a little bit of an overview of where we are with the Corn Belt Ports, what we've done over the last year, and some new initiatives that are going on that we know some of our stakeholders would be very interested in. And a little bit of background about us, our team. I'm from Illinois originally. Family goes back 7 generations. I ended up joining the Army after I graduated from Eastern Illinois University, and ended up making my way back to the region when I took command of the Rock Island District of the Corps of Engineers, which was responsible for most of the waterways in Illinois, or at least the waterways inside the lock and dam system, most of those, and all of the upper Mississippi River Basin and Illinois River Basin programs. And then Chris Smith, he's our Director of Operations on our team. He's from Chillicothe, Illinois, originally, on the community there on the Illinois River. He graduated from the University of Illinois with his bachelor's degree, and his wife's father actually was a professor at Eastern Illinois University. So we've got very deep roots in the state of Illinois, and we just want to do what we can to help bring more investment into the region or into the area. And then Dr. Anshu Singh is our Director of Sustainability and Conservation. And she grew up in India, got her master's degree from India's leading ag university, which was in partnership with the University of Illinois and University of Iowa, or Iowa State. Iowa State. And then worked for the equivalent of the Chicago Board of Trade in India, managing ag commodities. And then recently got her PhD in large river ecosystems from Western Illinois University. And her husband works for John Deere in the Quad Cities area. So anyway, a little bit about our team, and I'm just going to go through some slides here to give you a very brief update on what we're doing for the region. So, and Nancy or anyone can chime in if the slides aren't advancing quick enough. But this is a map of where the Corn Belt ports are for anyone on the call that's new. We have 4 Corn Belt port regions, one on the Illinois waterway, one between or in the tri-state area, includes Northeast Missouri, Western Illinois, and in Southeast Iowa. It's kind of centered on the Quincy, Hannibal area. And then we've got one centered on the Quad Cities, the Davenport, Iowa, Rock Island, Illinois area. And then we have one that's centered on the La Crosse, Wisconsin, Winona, Minnesota area. But they are the Corn Belt port regions. As you can see, they're centered and really kind of dead center, the heart of the Corn Belt. And this is a USDA corn production map by county that we've just overlaid the Corn Belt ports on. And then, of course, our largest trading partners are the ports in Louisiana, represented by the blue oval at the bottom of the slide. And this is just where the Corn Belt port regions align with the counties. Just I'll let you guys take a look at this for a second, just to see where you are on the map and how it relates to you. Yeah. And each one of the port regions are recognized by the federal government, either as a port commission, port authority, port statistical area, but they've all got federal recognition. And prior to the Corn Belt Ports Initiative in 2019, none of our ports did. There were no ports, federally recognized ports on the U.S. ports list between St. Louis and St. Paul, or St. Louis and Chicago. And each one of our port regions, we've kind of taken this to the next step, and they are economic development engines, as indicated on the previous slide. But what we're trying to do in each one of these primarily rural port regions is just continue to strengthen the regional partnerships. So we have, of course, we're working closely with the port regions and commissions and organizations that are in place that are formally recognized in each one of these areas. But we're also teaming with lead business organizations and industry organizations and strengthening that relationship in each one of the regions. And then we've identified a lead economic development organization or a regional economic development organization, and we're just continuing to strengthen the partnerships from one end of the port region to the other in each one of the 4 rural, regional, multimodal inland ports. And then each one of our port regions are kind of centered on a metropolitan planning organization, and then the overall boundaries align with these existing regional planning agencies, or they're compatible with those. So, for example, there are 3 port regions that or 3 regional planning agencies, rather, that are aligned with the Illinois Waterway Ports Commission, the 10-county regional port on the Illinois Waterway. It's the North Central Illinois Council of Governments, the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission in Peoria, and then the Western Illinois Council. So we just want to continue to want to strengthen the organizational team, I guess, the regional team and partnerships that really make these ports do as much as they can to attract additional investment into the region. And then each one of and Dr. Singh will talk a little bit about some of the benefits of this, but each one of the port regions has its own sustainability and environmental working group. And then in one way, shape, or form, they're connected to Riverfront Cities and Towns Initiative or collaboration along each one of these port regions. And then we've just started working with the Upper Mississippi, Illinois, Missouri Rivers Association to identify flood infrastructure working groups that align with each one of the port regions, just to address both the man-made and natural infrastructure that is important to our reducing flood risk in the region. And then I just kind of wanted to let everyone know how our Corn Belt ports are aligned with federal projects in the region. In the Mississippi River, and I'm going to start from coastal Louisiana and move upriver. But there are some major federal projects associated with different segments of the Mississippi River system. The hurricane and storm damage risk reduction system was over $14 billion project built in New Orleans, and the Office of Coastal Protection and Restoration is the kind of the non-federal sponsor for that, or at least the local sponsor, I should say. And then there's the Mississippi River and Tributaries Project, the MR&T project, which is a multi-purpose project on the lower Mississippi River. And its non-federal sponsor or partner, if you will, is the Mississippi Valley Flood Control Association. And then there's a regulating work section of the Mississippi River that's operates under its own authorities. Basically, it's the open river, the portion from St. Louis to Cairo, Illinois, that doesn't have any locks and dams. And then there's the federal lock and dam system, which everyone on this call is probably familiar with, but it includes the upper Mississippi River and Illinois waterway and the locks and dams associated to that. And the Corn Belt Ports, the initiative began in 2019, and in 2020, we've been getting, since 2020, we've been getting more involved in fulfilling the role as just a local champion and partner for different segments of the upper Mississippi and Illinois waterway lock and dam system, and just representing the riverfront communities and counties. That constituency, if you will, just hadn't been in existence. And then we originally formed the Corn Belt Ports, or one of the reasons for it was to attract as much investment as possible from the bipartisan infrastructure law and other federal programs. And we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit now. And there's about, according to a report that was put together by the Inland River Ports and Terminals Organization, there was an estimate that there's over $3 billion, or about $3 billion worth of maintenance, operations and maintenance backlog. Those are just upgrades and repairs to existing infrastructure that we have. And there's a need to ensure that we have safe, dependable, reliable access to global markets. And this operations and maintenance backlog addresses some of the infrastructure that enables us to have that. So we're going to be teaming with several organizations to try and bring more O&M, or operations and maintenance funding, into our region. And so what we really want to do, the Corn Belt Ports really want to do, is just compete and win at the national level when it comes to competing for federal dollars and from a wide variety of federal agencies. And this is just a map that was used by one of the federal agencies here. It was developed prior to 2020, but you still see it out there occasionally. But it just shows that there were no U.S. ports or U.S. principal ports, at least ports that were on the U.S. ports list, between St. Louis and St. Paul and St. Louis and Chicago. So it's kind of a perceived rural injustice in this region. And, our theme all along has been, or one of our talking points is, you can't invest in a port that doesn't exist. So we just wanted to get on the map. And this is a maritime administration slide, but it just highlights what we're talking about here, and the challenges that we've been facing in the rural Midwest. But from 2010 to 2022, there were no grants from the Maritime Administration that were successfully executed in our region. And part of that was we just lacked the identity, our own identity of being ports. We didn't even think of us as having ports in many cases in many of the riverfront communities. So the Dubuque, Iowa did receive one grant. If you look at the box on the left, these represent the different Maritime Administration grants that are out there to support ports. They did receive an infra grant a few years ago, but they were unable to execute or deliver that. So the money was actually returned to the federal government. So we have not had prior to the Corn Belt Ports Initiative, we had no successful grants in this region. And the good news is, and within the last year, we were notified that 3 of our ports have received Port Infrastructure Development Program grants from the Maritime Administration, one at Red Wing for a few $1 million, Red Wing, Minnesota, one in Wabasha, Minnesota for a couple million, and then we got over a $10 million grant in Northeast Missouri and Lewis County. So we know it's working. So we're just raising the visibility and having encouraging our riverfront communities to submit grants now for maritime administration grant opportunities, and there's going to be some more opportunities come up soon, or the door will open again for another round of maritime administration grants, and we'd like to double. We'd like to go from 3 to about 6 in our region during this next award cycle. And I think most of you are aware of this. We were very successful in getting helping get, and it wasn't just us; it was people that have been working this for many years too. But we got funding for some construction funding for Lock and Dam 25, so can get a good solid start on that. And we're trying to build big collectively are trying to build a 1,200-foot Lock and Dam 25 in Winfield, Missouri. And then we're trying to get a LaGrange lock started, the construction started on that as soon as feasible. There's already been some contracts awarded for some of the long lead time steel items that are a component of that. So we want to, but our long-term goal is to have 2 locks under construction at any one given time. And the many people that are probably on this call have been trying to get a 1,200-foot lock started in the for Mississippi River system for decades, actually. So there's some good movement going, and we're just pretty happy about and excited about that. I want to skip this next slide. It was basically a similar slide than the previous one, just for everybody that's on the call, and especially anyone that's new. 3 of our ports were nationally listed and ranked as a leading U.S. port in 2020. We're pretty excited about that. 2 made the top 50 list, and then the ports of Eastern Iowa and Western Illinois came in at 56, but our goal is to get it up above the top 50 line. And then 2 of our ports, we never made anything like this before, but 2 of our ports made the Global Trade Magazine's top 50 power ports list in their one of their recent issues. So we're really happy about that. And then we do want to continue to reinforce that we're a critical part of the supply chain. And 2 of our ports made the U.S. Department of Transportation's top 25 bulk cargo port list. That's the kind we've been shipping tonnage out of here for a long time, and it's just nice to get this kind of recognition. And then, part of our thinking from the very beginning was that, and other places looking at other places in the nation, we know it works. We knew it worked, but by linking up regional and local ports with the national waterways that do exist in the region, it just makes us more competitive for federal dollars. And we've stopped the counting almost, but since the Corn Belt Ports Initiative began, there's been well over $2 billion worth of investment in our Corn Belt Ports region, and natural multi-modal transportation and natural infrastructure investment from a wide variety of federal agencies. We're just excited about that, and we just haven't seen this kind of investment before. And then we've just got some wonderful leaders that are the leaders of each one of the Corn Belt Port regions now. And these are the chairs. Travis McGlasson is the chair of the Illinois Waterway Ports Commission. Blake Roderick, who's very experienced in the water resources world, is the chair of the Mid-America Port Commission. Couldn't ask for anyone better to be in the chair at this point in time. And then Mike Tomes, there's kind of a dual chairmanship, if you will, of the ports of Eastern Iowa and Western Illinois. Mike Tomes, just a great guy. And he was, Dr. Anshu Singh and I are currently in Boston. We just we were asked to give an update to the annual American Association of Port Authorities meeting, our convention and expo. And Mayor Mike Tomes came out to to kind of give an update on the port perspective, one of the port perspectives in the Corn Belt. And he's not only the chair of the Rock Island Regional Port District, but also the mayor of Rock Island. So he can make a lot of things happen. And then Jim Irwin is the new chair of the Ports of Eastern Iowa Authority. He's also the chair of the Iowa. He's the lead member of the Board of Supervisors in Clinton County in Iowa. So he's just a well-connected super leader. We're just excited to have that kind of leadership in the Corn Belt ports regions that were at least the three original ones. And then the Northern Greenbelt ports kind of decided to join the family too, and we're just really thrilled about that. The Northern Greenbelt ports is a little bit different type of port region. It's right in the middle of the Upper Mississippi River National Wildlife and Fish Refuge, and there are 5 basically city ports in this region, but they're all connected by road and rail. They all work in concert with each other. They're all connected by the Mississippi Regional Planning Commission, or at least on the Wisconsin side. And then there's a metropolitan planning organization that spans the river in the La Crosse area. So it's viewed as one big integrated family in that region, and we're just continuing to work to strengthen that organization and entity. And we've got a meeting coming up in November now to meet with some of their regional economic development folks to just continue to strengthen that identity and that regional identity. And over the last 90 days, we've accomplished a lot. I know I'm talking a lot here, but I'll turn it over to Chris Smith here soon. But in the last 90 days, we signed a cooperative endeavor agreement with the ports of Louisiana, our largest trading partners. First time we've ever done anything like that in our history, in their history. Getting all the ports in Louisiana to sign all the ones on the Mississippi River to sign an agreement like that. And then the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative kind of signed on as witnesses to that initiative, just to strengthen the relationship from one end of the river to the other in the port community. We rolled out the Illinois River Cities and Towns Initiative. It's an organization bringing together the mayors of the cities and towns along the Illinois waterway, so that they have something comparable to the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative to help work policy and other issues that will benefit our riverfront communities. Formed the Ports of Eastern Iowa under Iowa Code 28J. And this is kind of a historic first for Eastern Iowa, so we're excited about that. And again, Jim Irwin is just a great chairman of the board of that organization. And then we held our first Upper Mississippi River Ports annual meeting the day after they had their first Ports of Eastern Iowa board meeting, and we're just excited about the movement in that area of just strengthening the multi-modal port and logistics center that's along that stretch of the river. And then we just led a panel yesterday at the annual American Association of Port Authorities Conference and Expo on our relationship with the Port of Louisiana. And we also rolled out a Green Marine Highway initiative, which Dr. Singh will talk about in a little bit. But that's exciting. We're just looking at ways to move or reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And one way to do that is to move more freight to barge. So we see there's a lot of enthusiasm around that effort, and we were just thrilled to be able to roll that out at the American Association of Port Authorities meeting here in Boston. Well, I'm just going to go back and just reinforce one of the things that I said earlier was we just signed a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Corn Belt ports. Corn Belt ports are just simply the ports inside the lock and dam system on the Illinois waterway and the Upper Mississippi River, and then our largest trading partner ports along the Mississippi and Louisiana. And we just see a lot of wonderful benefit coming from strengthening that relationship. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Smith, our Director of Operations, and he's just going to kind of give you an idea of what's been going on the operations side of things. And we won't go into a lot of detail here, but just kind of give you a snapshot. So Chris, over to you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Thanks again for the invite to come back and talk. So what I'd like to do is just dive a little deeper into the Illinois waterway. region. And Bob up front talked about the opportunities that we're exploring to increase coordination and cooperation, in essence, to at a regional level. So, we've initiated and formed a MOU with the Illinois Waterway Port Commission, again, to align goals and priorities. Within the we're working on, again, strengthening relationships with business and industry. Port Commission would like to explore opportunities on how we can formalize relationships. Bob talked a little bit about the economic development organizations, the example right there that lead one in the region. There's others, but it's the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, and we also work with North Central Illinois Council of Governments. So great organizations. And then the opportunity that Bob talked about also is the Illinois River Cities and Towns initiative, which allows us to bring together the cities and towns along with the ports, with the goal and the focus on opportunities for increasing investment opportunities. Next slide.
Yeah.
So on the
yeah, Chris, did you go back?
Nope.
Okay.
Right there. Thanks. So on the Illinois Waterway Port Commission, last time we were together, we talked a little bit about this. All of the 4 port regions are federally recognized. The Illinois Waterway Port Commission last year became state recognized. We went through this past year, 2 years ago, state recognized. This last year, put forward an amendment. And the reason the commission wanted to put forward, the primary reason on the amendment, there were some areas within its geographic boundaries that did not have the same capabilities as the port district. So what we wanted to do is, what the commission wanted to do was kind of close some of the gaps. So how the slides really depicted then is around the 3, 4, 5, and 6 is that region that was uncovered on the map when you put it all onto a map. So that was one of the primary reasons the commission wanted to go forward and work the amendment and put the amendment through to give it some additional capabilities from a regional perspective to help the region out. And this just gets into the organizing units within the commission. So if we look at it from the operating units, that would be the 5 port districts itself, and then that last area, the 6, and there were the boundaries or the areas outside of the boundaries of the Illinois Valley Regional Port District, Ottawa City Port, and also Seneca Regional Port District. Then our regional partners, West Illinois Regional Planning Council, the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, and North Central Illinois Council of Governments. And then of course, the Illinois Waterway Port Commission. Next slide.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing, and I'm just going to, if you don't mind, Chris, is just reinforce that now all 10 counties that make up the Illinois Waterway Ports Commission can have access in one way. Now we've created an organizational structure where every riverfront mile has got the ability now to access federal funds, and we didn't have that before. There were literally gaps, and when we set out doing this, we still wanted to protect each one of the existing ports as a port operating unit, and we did that through legislation. So anyway, we think we came up with a great solution, and it passed the Illinois House with strong bipartisan support, and so we're pretty excited about the possibility or the opportunities there that this will bring. And we basically followed the model that of the Mid-America Port Commission, which has been around for many years, and also includes multiple ports inside of its jurisdiction. So, and Chris, I'll go to the next slide, and you can take it from there.
All right, thanks. So since the Corn Belt ports, there's right now currently there's some strategic planning efforts that are ongoing with 5 of the ports to include one of the newest ports, and that's the Rock Island City Regional Port District. So that was signed into law during the last cycle and came into effect over the summer. So we're excited about those opportunities for them to again to assist the port districts with understanding their roles as economic development engines for the region. So on this slide, really what we're trying to do is replicate the regional partnerships that are in place, and we're developing them within each one of the regions. You know, in essence, a lot of these all these organizations are have been in operation. So what we're doing is we're just helping to bring them together around the port regions themselves. Bob talked a little bit about the ports of Eastern Iowa Authority, which was the newest one that was just recently created, and that's going from Dubuque all the way down to Louisa within Iowa. So that regional port was established. They had their first board meeting last month, and they're moving forward right now. So we're excited about working with them and helping them. We being the Corn Belt ports have memorandums of understanding in place now with the Illinois Waterway Port Commission, the Mid-America Port Commission, the Ports of Eastern Iowa Authority, and we continue to work on those opportunities that we can explore, ventures so we can increase the opportunities to bring in some investment within the region. We've talked quite a bit about the federal investment. Bob mentioned the 3 PIDP grants that we've received. After Anshu speaks, I'll come back on. I want to introduce one of the partners that we're working with right now to help bring in some additional federal dollars through grant opportunities, leveraging the public-private partnerships. So, Anshu.
Hello, everyone. First of all, everyone on this call, I just would like everyone to know that sustainability is the foundation of the Corn Belt ports. And there is a very strong reason for that. As you can see, geographically, Corn Belt ports are located on the Upper Mississippi River and on the Illinois River. Like 3 of our ports are on the Upper Miss, and 1 Illinois Waterway Port Commission and MAPC is also on the Illinois River, which together makes up the Upper Mississippi River system. And that's a nationally significant ecosystem as recognized by the Congress in 1986. It provides critical habitat to 25% of native fish species and support more than 300 bird species. It is also more than 60% of North American bird species, migratory bird, especially they use this corridor when they migrate from Canada to Gulf Coast. So this is a nationally significant ecosystem. And to protect this, protect the integrity of this system, we have 2 major federal ecosystem restoration programs. Many of you have heard about Upper Mississippi River Restoration and Navigation and Ecosystem Sustainability Program, NESP. And one by one, I will talk about both of these programs, their funding, and what's going on under these programs. So Upper Mississippi River Restoration Program. This is the first environmental restoration program on the large river ecosystem in the United States. It covered 1,200 miles of a navigable river and especially the 8 Illinois river locks and dams. This program has two components. One is Habitat Rehabilitation and Enhancement Project. They generally call it HREP, and other is Long-Term Resource Monitoring, LTRM. And we'll talk about this in few minutes. So this is the slide I shared last year when we were giving the update. So not much change in this slide because this slide is the result of a project identification workshop which happened in 2019 for all other regions, but not for the Illinois waterway. And that's why we don't have any project on this slide. But this year, and that project identification workshop, that happens every 5 years. So it was again happening this year, and we made sure that we have that project identification workshop for Illinois River also. So during that workshop, along with the help of our Illinois DNR, Fish and Wildlife, some NGOs like the Nature Conservancy and Ducks Unlimited, we added 50 potential projects to the Corps of Engineers database. So because of this exercise, next year, we should have some projects with some fact sheets developed under Illinois Waterway Port Commission region. So we are hopeful for next year, you will see some change on this slide.
Yeah. So our goal, this is Bob Sinkler, our goal is really to kind of look at each one of these port regions as kind of peer regions, and we'd like a similar amount of investment going on in natural infrastructure in all four. And that clearly hasn't been the case, that we've went over a decade without any ecosystem restoration projects or large-scale ecosystem restoration projects on the Illinois waterway, for example. So we got kind of an imbalance with roughly 90 million in the Mid-America Port Commission area, about 90 million in the Northern Greenbelt Ports area. Then we got a whopping nearly $200 million of projects that have been kind of approved for construction on the between Illinois and Iowa, and we just really need to kind of figure out how to bust through the obstacles and hurdles to deliver more natural infrastructure projects on the Illinois waterway. Just because the need is obviously there. So.
And this is about the long-term resource monitoring stations. So as of now, we have 6 LTRM stations. These LTRM stations, they generally collect data on water, fish, land use, and vegetation. And then they evaluate if there is a need of habitat restoration project in a particular location. So we have been trying to add 2 LTRM station or LTRM station equivalents in Mid-America Port Commission region and Illinois Waterway Port Commission region. So in last 1 year, we have sent our chairman of MAPC and Illinois Waterway Port Commission both sent request letters to Rock Island Commander that we need LTRM stations in our region. And we also followed up with few meetings with UMRR program manager Marshall Plumley. As a result of our efforts now, Corps of Engineers, they have hired a biologist for doing the need assessment of LTRM station in the MAPC region. So that's the progress in that direction. So hopefully we should be having LTRM station equivalent soon in the Mid-America Port Commission region.
And that just helps us inform decisions on where ecosystem restoration projects should be to improve the overall system. And one of the challenges that we've had is over the years is that a lot of the projects have gone to federally owned lands, either owned by the Corps of Engineers or the Fish and Wildlife Service or other federal agency, because there's no cost share requirement, and it kind of disadvantages some segments of the Corn Belt Ports region, just because there's not an abundance of federally owned lands in those areas. So we're just trying to look at ways to bring more investment in those areas and kind of balance things a little bit in a way that really serves everyone. We're always looking for those win-win-win projects where there's no controversy, and it just makes sense to make the money that's already available, or make investment from the pot of money that's already available every year to address our system needs, and kind of we just kind of want to back off and look at things as more of a system than individual projects.
And on the funding front, UMRR funding, since the inception of Corn Belt Ports, it has increased, it tripled basically. So it was 33 million, then 55, and then 90 is the authorization. But as you can see on this slide, as in the beginning I mentioned, UMRR has two components, HREP and LTRM. So HREP funding have increased, but LTRM remains at $15 million from last 3 years. So now there is a good news that under WRDA 2024, Senate and U.S. House of Representatives, they both have supporting the increase in LTRM component of UMRR. So that's a good news, and that should help us in getting new LTRM station equivalent in our two region which we are asking for. So now about navigation and ecosystem sustainability program. It's a dual purpose program, mostly focusing on improving the navigation efficiency as well as the ecological health of our river. And similar to UMRR, it also covers 1,200 miles of 9-foot deep channel and 37 locks and dam on the upper Mississippi River and Illinois River, but it also includes the floodplain habitat that is critically important to large river floodplains. And here is this map. It is the current NEST map, which shows completed and ongoing projects. You all can access it on Corps of Engineers NEST site. And as you can see under the complete construction complete projects, out of 7, 4 are on the Illinois waterway, which is very different than last year. This is like first time ever we had the ecosystem restoration project on the Illinois River, and we have completed 4 in this 1 year. And there is one more, the ongoing construction. If you can see on this slide, the topography data acquisition project is going on the Illinois River. So these are the 4 projects which I'm talking about, the completed on the Illinois waterway. One is Moore's Towhead system, that's on the navigation side, 1 project completed, and 3 projects completed on the ecosystem restoration side. And Starved Rock Breakwater, it's the largest ecosystem restoration project on the Illinois waterways in almost a decade. And it was a big deal for us. They had groundbreaking in February, and then the ribbon cutting in September. So it was like in record time they completed this project. And Illinois Waterway Port Commission's chairman and some of the board members were also present at the ribbon cutting and groundbreaking. So it was significant for us. And now these are some ongoing activities, like completed 4 projects, and now on the navigation side there are 5 projects is there, but I will focus more on the Lagrange because that is on the Illinois River. So Lagrange, it's a new 1,200-foot lock. It's fully funded for design, and recently they have also awarded contract for machinery fabrication. So project progress is really good. It's going great. On the ecosystem restoration side, Lock and Dam 22 fish passage contract is recently awarded, and it is also progressing well on time. Other than that, the continued project planning and design is going on for fiscal year 2022 and 2023. And other than that, the project identification workshop happened in 2024, where we identified those 50 projects. I already mentioned that we already have those in Corp's database. So some of them should come under NESP through these these programs. About NEST funding, we all know that it was authorized in 2007, but never got funded until Cornwall Ports creation. So after Cornwall Ports creation, first time ever NEST got funded under bipartisan infrastructure law in 2022 January. And afterwards, as you can see in FY 2023 and FY 2024, we are trying to get NEST funded every year. We are making sure we are submitting those community project funding requests so that NEST keep on getting funded every year.
Yeah, and this is Bob Sinkler. I just want to chime in and just say, there's a lot of team members that are really trying to increase the investment in the larger region, and it's just not the Corn Belt ports that are part of the team, but doing it. But we are the organization that has the interface with the riverfront communities and counties. And since the Navigation Ecosystem Sustainability Program is a community project funded request, we need our riverfront counties, our riverfront communities to weigh in every year on the community project funded requests to ensure that the Navigation Ecosystem Sustainability Program and other investments in our region are taking place. So we just want to thank all the riverfront communities that are out there and the ones that are on the call about just the great support you've given us and helping to kind of elevate the requirements and needs of our infrastructure and help our elected officials make the most informed decisions possible on where the limited federal dollars should go to really kind of advance the infrastructure needs and requirements.
And on this slide, you can see this is a new initiative I'm going to talk about. So geographically, like our Cornwall ports are perfectly aligned with the Upper Mississippi River system, where we have those two federal programs for ecosystem restoration. Similarly, if you can see geographically, the Cornwall ports are perfectly aligned on the Mississippi River with Marine Highway 35 and on the Illinois River with Marine Highway 55. Marine Highway 35, Mississippi River, and Marine Highway 55, Illinois River. So here we see an opportunity that if we can incorporate more sustainable strategies or greener technologies, we have an opportunity to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions on a very large scale, and we can reduce and lower the carbon footprint of our ag produce and other goods moving on these routes. So yesterday at AAPA platform, we were part of a panel. So there we launched this Green Marine Highway initiative on M35 and M55. So here we are trying to achieve the Green Marine Highway status by creating sustainable, resilient, and healthier river ecosystem for our riverfront communities. And these are some of our goals. I know our goals are a bit ambitious, but I feel they are achievable. The main goal of the Green Marine Highway initiative is to move freight to waterways. To make our water transportation the most attractive option to move goods over other mode of transportation. Other thing is we will be developing a comprehensive decarbonization plan for all our Cornwall ports, and that will help us to accurately measure our carbon emission, and also will help us in goal setting for carbon neutrality. And again, I have another good news to share that 2 days back on October 29th, we have been selected for a $3 million U.S. EPA grant to develop decarbonization plan for our Illinois ports. So one is Illinois Waterway Port Commission, 10-county region, and there is another is Mid-America Intermodal Port Authority, which is 11 counties. So total 21 counties on the Illinois River and 2 counties on the Mississippi River. So total 23 counties, we will be developing a decarbonization plan, which should start from January 2025. We just received 2 days back, so I do not have more details on that. but it will be a two-year program, 2-year project duration to develop this decarbonization plan. And we'll keep on restoring and protecting our aquatic ecosystem through UMRR and NESP programs. We aim to enhance the flood risk management and resilience by incorporating more nature-based solutions, nature-based infrastructure like wetlands and floodplains. They can absorb more water and reduce flood risk, which is very important for our riverfront communities. And we are committed to promote environmentally sustainable navigation system. And as you can see, we have already going forward on our Green Marine Highway Initiative efforts, because before even launching, we applied for this decarbonization plan grant and we have received it. So we are ahead.
So the grant actually is almost divided equally between 3 regional ports in Illinois inside the lock and dam system. So
yes,
about $1 million will go to the Upper Mississippi International Port District, Mid-America Port Commission area, and Illinois Waterway Ports Commission area. So we're pretty excited about that. And I know we're running really short on time. Nancy, is there time for a few questions?
Hey, Bob, I'd like to, if we have a few minutes, I'd like to get Bob Rattel on here and let him step through a few things on public-private partnerships.
Yeah. So let me just say a little bit about Bob. We've worked very closely with him. He's an expert on bringing in federal dollars to support port infrastructure development programs. And Bob, I don't think we have any time for slides, but if you could take a minute or so and just kind of highlight what your capability is, and then we'll be sure and get your contact information out online, and people can reach out to you if they have any, if they see it or there's an opportunity they want to help you deliver. They want you to help them deliver. So anyway, over to you, Bob. And Nancy, just can tell me, there's a lot of questions in the chat by any chance? I know we've only got about 3 minutes left. I want to make sure we get to all the questions too.
Yep. And Mike, you can also help to field those questions. Just wanted to say we're happy to stay on after the hour and have this Q&A. And for those who do have to hop off, it is being recorded and you can come back and listen to the Q&A. But I think having a Q&A after this is really good, and there are some questions. So Mike, take it away.
Okay.
Well, wait. Let's get Bob on here first.
Yeah. So let Bob do a quick introduction because there may be some questions for him. So Bob, over to you.
I guess the first thing is to be unmuted. So I feel like I've already accomplished something today. I'm not going to belabor this because we're sort of at the tail end here. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to chat in the Q&A session about a little bit of this. But about 2 years ago, I was introduced to the Corn Belt Ports folks by a client of mine that was working in Peoria. In the last year or so, it's become quite clear that our missions are fairly similar, if not the same. I view Bob and his group as assisting the public side with driving dollars from the federal government into public projects. My job is then to help the private side engage with the public side where there are opportunities to partner, and those are called public-private partnerships. So we've done a bunch of this work across the country, specifically in the Inland Ports region. We've worked, I think, every major waterway, including some that may not be so major. But our job is essentially, like I said, to help facilitate the connection of private and public projects and dollars. And so I want to get 4 important points across. And then if we've got time, I'm happy to run through the slides. There's only a few, but the most important things here is BIL funding, which is the expansion of dollars into existing and new projects that was signed into law in 2021, is coming to an end. The last 2 rounds for PIDP are going to be 25 and 26. So the notice of funding opportunity for PIDP will come out in December. We anticipate an application deadline in March to April-ish. And then after that, we're off to the races with one last round. But PIDP is the best economic development program the feds offer. It includes everything soup to nuts that you would need, from mooring cells and dolphins all the way into railroad, building materials and equipment. So a great program. P3 is a great approach. The feds require a match in every program. That match is most appreciated when it comes from non-governmental sources. They think of anything that's not federal as non-federal, which is fair. But if you've got private dollars available, the feds really enjoy that because it gives them better leverage for essentially tax dollars. And then finally, right now is the time to identify projects. We've got half a dozen projects in hand right now that we have begun working on, bringing the eligible entity and the private parties together, mapping out project plans, and setting up data rooms. And it's a busy time of year for us, and it should be a busy time of year really for port communities up and down the river system. And to that end, what I would say, one more point is the majority of these P3s come together by virtue of someone like me representing a private party coming in and befriending a public entity. We'd really like to see that turn around and see more of the public side bringing private projects to us so that we can help the ports rein in some extra dollars and have some additional capacity from those private investments that benefit public entities. I'm going to stop there. Happy to answer questions. We can also have a sidebar or another presentation. There's lots to talk about here, but I'll stop there.
Okay. So over to you, Nancy, for any of the Q&A.
Thank you. Yep, we have a question. We've got Leslie here saying, is there any funding for all volunteer port district ports who need money to manage grant projects and drive future growth?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a big challenge that our port entities have. Many of them don't really have, depending on the state they're in, some of them don't really have any solid revenue generating capability. So for example, they don't have taxing authority, for example, and in many of the states there's not a program that where they give money to the operating funds to the ports. So that really disadvantages our type of ports. Our ports are primarily led by the day-to-day operations. It's really private entities that are kind of making sure that our barges get loaded and unloaded in the region. So yeah, that's a big challenge, and we're looking at creative ways to bring in additional funding for port operations. But right now, it's almost all everybody's trying to figure that out on their own.
Hey Bob, if we could, I'd like to flip that over to part of the reason we brought in Bob Bertel was to help us help the ports to be successful, and I think there are some opportunities leveraging the grants and making sure you have the right individual in your corner is going to be helpful. So Bob Bertel, please. I'm just going to assume you're muted again.
Well, yeah, this is Bob Sinkler. I don't know. Bob Bertel may be muted or may have dropped off. But yeah, so there are opportunities where funding can come to support the ports on the backside of some of the grants once they're won. And Bob's got some great track record in that regard. So just teaming up with him, pursuing federal grants, and then figuring out a way to support some of your operations funding as a result of those grants.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, the answer to that is yes. There are dollars available. There's a couple ways to slice it. The first way would be to file for a planning grant. That would allow you then to get money to do port master studies and things like that. That can be done at a state or federal level. The state programs are a little dicier, but the federal programs generally allow for that. And then obviously as part of our P3 approach, we're trying to make sure that ports have money to operate and do things. And so to the extent you've got a port without a tenant, then what we're doing by virtue of covering that private entity with the eligibility of the public party, that benefit has to be paid for. And so we approach that pretty matter-of-factly and just tell people on the private side that they're going to need to pay the port something somehow to do some of this, because that's how ports operate, and they need money for folks to be able to spend time on things. I know there's also some things like the Delta, Delta DRA, Delta River Authority, or something like that. I can't remember. It's down kind of south of St. Louis, and it's hurricane based, I think. But there's lots of different little pots of money out there, including the Economic Development Assistance Agency and things like that. So we can have a sidebar if you'd like, and we can kind of talk a little bit more about that.
We have another question came in a little bit earlier, and maybe you can just expand a bit on how you're working with IDOT to strengthen the multimodal connections to ports.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we clearly, all of our terminals, almost all of our terminals, there's probably a few exceptions out there, but they're serviced by road and rail and barge, and so it just makes sense to figure out how to strengthen the multimodal transportation connections. We have a series. We have dozens and dozens of micro multimodal transportation facilities. So, but what we do want to do is just make sure the regional planning agencies are connected with us, and also with the state departments of transportation. So, in all of the regional multimodal transportation planning efforts, that waterways are included in all the other modes of transportation, and that feeds into some of the larger strategic planning efforts that each one of the states have going on to take a look at how freight is moved in and out of their state, and how best to maintain or how best to improve the multimodal transportation infrastructure. But we do have every one of our port regions has an annual meeting every year, and we get an update from the departments of transportation that are directly involved with that particular port region. And then over the year, between the two regional port meetings, I mean, we do what we can to kind of work together to support each one of our all of our departments of transportation in achieving the state multimodal transportation goals and objectives. But yeah, that the partnership is really important, and we just really appreciate the marine sections in each one of the states where they have them, and they've all got, I'm just speaking for all of them that we're working with, they've all got a kind of a multimodal transportation mindset, and it's very beneficial. But if that may help, but we just want to make sure that we are fully integrated into all of the multimodal transportation planning efforts that are taken by each one of the state departments of transportation in our region.
Good, thank you. There's a question that touches upon climate change considerations in the region, and this mode of transportation in particular. The question was posed is what happens as the river dries up, but I imagine that the opposite can also be just as relevant. What happens with extraordinary flooding or increasingly frequent episodes of flooding?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'll take this is Bob. I'll take a stab at that. So yeah, I mean, fortunately for the Corn Belt Ports area, we don't have low water problems. For the most part, we maintain 9 foot of water in the navigation channel, and that hasn't been significantly impacted by even the dry spell that we're going through right now. It does impact some of the dredging that the access from the channel to some of the private terminals, and there's a few issues there, but we're not experiencing the kind of just because we have locks and dams in place, we're not experiencing the low water that we clearly would. Low water conditions if it was prior to the lock and dam system being built. There were times in the 1933 is a great example. There were on the Mississippi River, you could walk across the Mississippi River just by jumping from one rock to another in the Quad Cities region, and people actually did. They walked over lunch. They walked from their job at Rock Island Arsenal across the river to Davenport, Iowa for lunch and back. So, we don't see that kind of low water at the same time that there were cows are being grazed on the Mississippi riverbed, in Dubuque. So we don't really have the low water issues in our particular region. And then as far as high water goes, we do have, the lock and dam system is kind of a climate resiliency system as far as we're concerned. It wasn't conceived as that way back then, but it prevents some of the low water extremes for sure from significantly impacting things in the upper Mississippi River. And then high water, we're seeing some fluctuations, and we're seeing a lot more rain. It's coming faster, and it's the flood water staying longer, and so it's just something we're going to have to, I think, adapt and live with. But we want a resilient multimodal transportation system that when things have to be shifted to other modes, there's another mode there that it can be shifted to, or another geographic location that it can be shifted to make sure we can reach global markets. So I think we're just going to have to learn how to take our transportation systems that we have and make improvements necessary to ensure that they're resilient enough to handle any kind of climatic fluctuations that we're experiencing or anticipated to experience. And I think we're working hard to do that. And then as far as one of our main objectives with the Green Marine Highway program is to move more freight to waterway, because it's not only, especially from truck to barge, and that definitely reduces wear and tear on our roads, reduces costs there, and it's clearly by moving things by water, it's clearly a greener way to move goods in the nation.
Good. We are coming to the end of our time together, but Chris Smith or Bob Brettel, any additional thoughts from either or both of you?
Bob Brettel, we'll give you the last word since we didn't get to all of the slides. So
Sweet. Yeah, we're presenting. There's a IDOT and MARAD joint hosted conference in Chicago on PIDPs, and we're going to be there helping Travis and BJ explain the applicant's perspective. So they're going to stand up and tell you all this stuff, and then we're going to go, yeah, that's not really how it works, or something like that. So we're looking forward to that. We work heavily with BJ and Brian on an everyday basis on the marine stuff in Illinois, and then we're connecting into some other parts of government as we move some of our projects forward there too. What I'll say about PIDP is you can't win if you don't apply, and so to the extent that you've got anything that even looks or smells like it could be something, let's talk about that. We're also very open to having open economic development conversations. I've been doing this for 16 years. I didn't start with the federal stuff. I came out of the state and local side. And so, we know a lot of things. We were chatting with a new ED guy this morning in Illinois. We explained to him there's an EDP and TARP program that might help with one of his projects. He's very happy to hear about that. Anyway, so if you have an inkling that there's something out there that you might want to chase, great, let's do that. If not, reach out to your private tenants, taxpayers, employers, and ask them what they have in mind and what they're interested in, and we can have those conversations too. So thanks for the time today.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. And BJ Murray, Bob Brettel mentioned BJ Murray. For those of you that aren't in Illinois, he's the heads up the marine section in the Department of Transportation, and Brian is his right-hand man. And Bob's got a great track record. I think the average is 27% of grants that are proposals that are submitted get approved, and he's like way over. Your odds are greater than 50-50 based on his track record. So he's the most knowledgeable person that we found on how to work the system and support inland ports in particular, and the rural ports on taking advantage of the federal dollars that are available. But thanks everybody for your time today. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate giving you an update and any kind of feedback that you can send us directly on how we can improve this next year and give you information that's the most relevant to you. We're clearly receptive to that. But thanks again for everyone and all the great support we get.
And follow us on LinkedIn if you want ongoing update on the Cornwall boats.
Thank you, Nancy, and everyone.
Yeah, listen, Bob, on behalf of Rural Partners and University of Illinois Extension, I want to thank you, the other Bob, and Anshu and Chris for your presentations today. Just to note to everybody, as I mentioned earlier, and if you've registered for the webinar, you will receive the presentation materials. If you haven't registered, drop your email into the box and we'll get them to you. Please note, little commercial here, that the next LGE webinar is scheduled for Thursday, December 5th at noon. It'll cover the 2024 elections and their impact on Illinois. We're going to take a brief hiatus for the holidays and resume in January with a new series on education, as well as with our long-standing annual presentations of state and federal legislative updates in the latter part of January, early part of February. I also want to invite everybody still online to visit our website at go.illinois.edu/LGE, not only to register for these upcoming programs, but also to access our video archives for prior presentations on a wide variety of community development topics, including some of the prior presentations on the Corn Belt ports. Excuse me. So again, thanks everybody for attending today's webinar. Have a great day. Have a great Halloween. We hope to see you back for future presentations. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we can end the recording there.